to the Oval Office starts here. Your common sense election headquarters, 89 WLS.
Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
Gave you a phone.
More. Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
Gave you a phone.
More. You on food stamps, you on Social Security. You got low income, you disability. Minority got Obama phone. Minority.
That is just so wrong. 937 Jake Hartford, John Cass.
On so many levels, but it kind of makes me hungry for some beer can Big Bird right now.
Oh, man. Big Bird, who got dragged into the presidential debate, the whole controversial thing last week, but the idea being that, you know what, should you have to subsidize Big Bird if you have to borrow 30 to 40 cents for each dollar to do it?
From China.
Yeah. Now,
and Romney said no, and then a week later, after he got basically trashed, his butt kicked all over national television in front of 70 million people, the president then comes up with a campaign commercial, a lighthearted campaign commercial poking fun at Romney for going after Big Bird.
Whoa, wait, lighthearted? They tied him to Bernie Madoff and all the other Wall Street crooks.
You know what really is sad? Dorothy Rabinowitz said this in the Wall Street Journal, and she's always excellent, that it shows desperation. It shows absolute desperation on the Team Obama's part by using something stupid like Big Bird.
I saw a story that said since the debate, in the week since the debate, the number of times the president out on the stump has mentioned Big Bird versus the number of times he has mentioned Libya. I'll give you a guess. How many times do you think he's mentioned Libya?
I know. 0.
Exactly. Although he was funny in San Francisco the other night when he was talking about how Big Bird was on the lam, heading toward the border in his white Suburban.
Yeah, that was cute.
Although I think he was making the OJ reference, and that was a Ford Bronco.
As long as he didn't mention Chicago or apartment, I guess he could bring the OJ Big Bird thing in.
Now, the guy who does Big Bird, that is big money. The people that do that Sesame Street workshop, they make huge money from Big Bird.
How much do they make?
Millions, and about $350 million last year.
You know why? Because they use our public airwaves as a infomercial for little kids to sell them stupid Elmo Big Bird junk.
Come on, you don't have a little Big Bird rubber ducky to put in your tub when you take your bath?
Usually, I use them as a back scratcher.
You don't have little Grouch brush to brush your sensitive
Made
parts?
in
You don't
China?
have that?
The Grouch to brush the sensitive parts is something every talk show host needs. Okay, and columnist for sure.
The guy who plays Big Bird,
right?
Last year he made $314,000. Of course, he also had a double and do Oscar the Grouch too.
Did he make extra?
Yeah, that's part of his money. $314,000.
1%er.
He is
almost, huh?
Big Bird's a 1%er,
right?
Yeah.
So what do I need to cook Big Bird on for the Cass's Big Bird chicken? Would I need like a kegger? I just feel like putting them on the grill right now. I've had it with Big Bird.
Well, Big Bird's had it with the president.
That's the thing.
They asked the people that the Sesame Street people, they've asked the campaign to stop using the Big Bird character in the commercial because they're smart. They don't need to anger half the electorate because that's what happens when a lot of actors and actresses get involved in politics.
Right.
If they're really strident, they tend to turn off some of their fans.
So that's why Stacey Dash is going to make a comeback in the suburbs.
I don't know.
Right?
I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
But with Big Bird, they've asked the campaign, hey, quit running those ads. And you know what the campaign did? No, they're still going to run them.
I thought that
they're going to take it under advisement.
I thought that when the Star asked, when they asked Mitt Romney, "Don't use our song," it's like a big controversy. How dare Romney use that song? It's a big deal, right? But if Big Bird tells you don't use me, and President Obama rolls over Big Bird's objections, I guess it's okay.
Usually when you use a song like that, you have to pay a licensing fee. And I would imagine for Big Bird, if you're going to use Big Bird for something, there'd be a licensing fee. But they don't even want that. They just want out. and Big Bird is being held captive. Free Big Bird.
I think Big Bird didn't someone come up with the idea to have Big Bird do a commercial? Because if Obama won't listen to Big Bird, that means
Romney should do one. Yeah,
Big Bird is weak, so Romney could take him.
If people, if you've got nothing better to do, 202-456-1414. Call the White House. Tell them John and Jake want the president to free Big Bird.
Let my Big Bird go.
That's all. Just call up.
Let my Big Bird go.
That's the White House switchboard. Just call up and say, please, free Big Bird.
Let him go.
Let him go.
Unchain him.
Yeah.
Put you all back in chain.
Mike on, you're doing your Joe Biden there. Mike on 55. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I got just a couple questions. It's fine that we are making fun of the Big Bird end of this, but when you look out at the president yesterday and he's standing on the podium and he's jacking around and he's joking about Big Bird and that Oscar the Grouch wants to go to Mexico and all this other stuff, when is this guy really going to be the president of the United States? It's not funny. You know what I mean? And all these people are like laughing and they're joking. Why didn't he go on there and show something with the poor guy that got killed overseas and stuff like that? He's not a president. When are these people going to realize this guy is not a celebrity? He's supposed to be president of the free world, and he's a jerk. Do you agree, or am I just...
Mike,
go ahead.
Mike, you remember what Jake said at the beginning of this segment? How many times we know he's talking about Big Bird all the time, but how many times has the President of the United States mentioned the fiasco in Libya?
Oh,
Zero.
Zero. You got it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the top of the hour. There's hearings going on in Washington, and the story has changed again. Thank you, Mike.
Alrighty.
And tomorrow night is the debate.
That's right.
And
I feel like going to a 7-Eleven.
It's with Joe Biden and Paul Ryan, and you'd be surprised the connection that the debate moderator has to the president.
And we'll get into that. All I got to say is Brandy Alexander's times 2.
9:44. Back after this on 89 WLS.
89 WLS. Bruce Wolf and Dan Proft. 89 WLS.
9:51.
John Cass and Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan on 89 WLS, and got Big Bird on our mind.
Vince in Chicago. Good morning, Vince.
Good morning. How you doing?
Hey,
What's on
Vince.
your mind?
Hey, if Big Bird is making as much as Mitt Romney, did he pay the 39% Obama wants him to pay?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I'm looking at the Sesame Street people, their workshop, their 2011 tax return. The government gave the $8 billion, which you heard about in the debate. They took in just under $45 million in royalties last year of the tax return. They took in another just under $32 million in grants and donations that are private. They also took in $2 million in additional funds from other fundraising events and another $34 million in other things. They've taken in a lot of money, and they pay out about $64 million a year in salary.
Now, Obama talking about Muppets like they're real people. Do you think we should have a drug test for Mr. President?
No, we should have one for Big Bird, though.
There you go.
It's
and,
Big Bird on steroids.
Do you think the president should be paying the 39% instead of 20%, since, the president should lead by example?
Was that before, when Michelle was making 150, and then as soon as Barack Obama was elected to the Senate, she made 300, like magically, because I guess she was worth more, as a lobbyist for University of Chicago Hospital. Did she pay the big bump?
I don't think she did. And the president released his tax returns, and he only paid 20% this year. I'm just saying, should he pay the 39% that he wants everybody to pay? Wouldn't that be, leading by example? And I think we should bring that up.
All right. Thank you, Vince.
I like it. Yeah.
I'm looking at the tax return. There's a lot of good stuff here.
It's just the money that they pull in.
And by the way, in the stimulus, remember the big stimulus? They got $1 million in the stimulus and created 1.5 jobs.
This is the Muppet people.
Yeah, the Sesame Street people.
$1 million for 1.5 jobs.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's
I've seen some of the other dollars they spent on the stimulus.
Well, they did better than the cocaine monkeys, remember?
9:54 back after this.
89 WLS. Join 89 WLS this Thursday night at 8 for the vice presidential debate live on Debate Central from your Common Sense election headquarters. 89 WLS.
John and Jake Hartford, John Cass, right?
Yeah, that's it. Jake and John.
We're going to talk about Libya. There's hearings going on in Congress right now. We're going to do that at 10:30. We're going to get into the vice presidential debate at 10:07. And when we come back, I'm looking at the income tax return for Sesame Street. They spent a lot of money on lobbying, a lot of money. It's a very interesting. It's a huge return, and they're a nonprofit.
And that's why we have to borrow 40 cents on the dollar for China so that PBS can make Big Bird a lot of chicken feed.
And pay the lobbyists, because lobbyists aren't cheap. We'll be back 10 o'clock, time for news, weather, traffic right here in 89 WLS.